Well, President Trump tries to make the Democratic race all about him and maybe a little bit of Biden. There are candidates out in the field pursuing a lot of other topics: jobs, criminal justice, taking on Wall Street. That's something Bernie Sanders raised in a major address today explaining democratic socialism.
They may hate democratic socialism because it benefits working people, but they absolutely love corporate socialism that enriches Trump and other billionaires.
One reason candidates give speeches like this early in the race is to try to lay out a marker. As we come on air tonight, I can tell you Sanders is already drawing some desired headlines for this speech. Now, as for what he said, he argued that this is all about specifics of his economic vision: rights to a living wage, health care, and other benefits that Democrat FDR backed but didn't get Congress to ever enact. In fact, Sanders name checks the New Deal president as well as MLK today, clearly attempts to present these values in some sort of broader idea of a liberal mainstream. And history offers some interesting lessons there. There are certainly reformers who were widely reviled in their day, then later celebrated. Civil rights leaders and labor leaders come to mind. And there's an echo here of that theme because Sanders quotes one of FDR's most famous lines from his last campaign speech. This was just days before the 36th election during the Depression, with controversies over the New Deal. And FDR noted that the elites and bankers didn't just oppose him, they hated him, and he was proud of it.
Never before in all our history have these forces been so united against one candidate as they stand today. They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
Today, Bernie Sanders made a point of quoting the very same line.
For in all our history have these forces been so united against one candidate as they stand today. They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
I'm joined by Professor Brittany Cooper, author of the book Eloquent Rage. Thanks for being here.
I'm glad to be here.
What does it mean to have a top-tier Democratic candidate explaining democratic socialism today?
Look, this was a huge and important speech, and I think really central to where we're trying to move on the Democratic left. And so essentially, Bernie Sanders says we're not going to cede conceptual territory to the right. We're not going to allow them to define the terms. We're not going to allow them to tell the American people what socialism is. We're going to take that back. And that moment where he says, "I welcome your hate," is actually a really smart rhetorical move, and it's from the Trump playbook. Trump feeds on rhetorical hate from the American populace. And so Bernie Sanders is essentially matching him one for one and saying, I'll take the hate that the right gives and I'll use it to power this campaign. I think that's a really smart, sophisticated campaigning.
You make an interesting point about the echo of the Trump rhetorical style for very different goals.
Yes.
When Trump was accused of nationalism, he sort of shrugged it off and said, well, maybe nationalism is a good thing.
That's right.
And democratic socialism is distinct, as we point out, from traditional socialism and communism.
Yeah.
But what Sanders is pushing back against is what other Democrats are currently obviously not as comfortable with. Take a look at the way these labels are already cropping up in the debate.
Absolutely.
I'm a capitalist. Come on. I believe in markets.
I support capitalism.
I am not a socialist.
We've got people in the party who are.
I am a Democrat. I believe in fundamental democratic principles.
If we want to beat Donald Trump and achieve big progressive goals, socialism is not the answer.
What do you think of the other Democratic candidates veering into socialism? Bernie's obviously trying to say, wait, no, we're talking about democratic socialism, FDR type stuff.
That's right. Look, I actually think that Bernie Sanders is right on this point. Part of what he is arguing is that we need a real robust left. We have to have a critique of economics. Now, look, I think that there's actually an identity politics piece to this, because you notice that the female candidates, the candidates of color, can't sort of claim socialism. So if you look at Elizabeth Warren on policy, much of what she's doing is in line with the sort of radical left move of Bernie Sanders. But she can't claim socialism and be taken seriously as a woman. I don't believe that women can run that far to the left and win. But this is also why Bernie Sanders is so important. We're still nearly 18 months out from the Democratic primary, from the election. And so we need a robust left. We need a debate. And Bernie Sanders set new conceptual territory and said economic rights are human rights. These are very reasonable sorts of concerns that the Democratic left should be debating. And him resetting that territory actually matters, whether you support Sanders or not, because he is sort of infusing a robust conceptual ground into the debate.
And just briefly, because we have a bunch of other breaking news we're going to turn to.
Yeah.
What does it mean when Democrats say, instead of worrying about being popular, they try to strike this mode of saying, actually, I welcome your hatred. Bankers shouldn't like me. That's not what we always hear.
Look, they're saying bring it. They're saying we're ready for the fight. And as I keep saying, Democrats got to show up and fight and stop acting like the moral, they got to stop conceding the moral high ground to Republicans and say, look, 48% of millennials actually support socialism and socialist leaning candidates. And so they're playing to the Democratic base in this moment. It's a good move.
It's interesting hearing you say that. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.